Hello students, today we are going to do 11th part of the lecture series. As you all know, we are doing chapter number 9, ray optics, and today the lecture flow will be like the first thing we'll study today is scattering of light, second is some terms related to human eye, and third one is optical instrument. And the first optical instrument we are going to study is simple microscope. In the next lecture, we are going to do compound microscope and telescope. But today we'll take one, that is your simple microscope. Now let us move. The first thing we'll study today is scattering of light. What is scattering of light? Okay, let me explain with an example. Suppose one plain mirror is there, a ray of light falling on the mirror. Then what happens? Obviously, reflection. But suppose if the size of this mirror is being very small, it is of size of molecules. Now, suppose I have taken a molecule, a very small particle, and a beam of light is striking that particle. Now what happens? All the rays of light which makes the beam of light will not strike the particle normally, or will not strike the particle in a straight line. It will strike on the curved part of the molecule, because in general shape we take a sphere. Then the light will be reflected in so many directions because of its curved path. Some light get transmitted through the particle and ejected from the particle from the other side. This is what the scattering means. So as you can see in the diagram, when a beam of light strikes a particle of a small size comparable to its wavelength, then the light beam is deflected in all directions. This is what we call scattering. Okay, so scattering means when a light falls on a particle which is very small, then what happens? Light gets scattered. It gets scattered in all directions, and this is scattering of light. So how we define scattering? We say that this is the phenomena in which light is deflected from its path due to its interaction with the particles of the medium through which it passes. I hope it is clear. But when I have told one thing, that the size of the particle should be comparable to the wavelength of the light. Why I am saying so? Let me give you an example. Suppose we have two waves. One is having low wavelength, small wavelength, and other is longer wavelength. Okay. Now the wave is going in the form of crust and trough. We are talking about light only. Light is a transverse wave, so it goes in form of crust and trough. If we take a scatterer, means the particle which scatters the light, then there are chances that the longer wavelength light may jump away, may jump the particle and do not get scattered. Whereas for smaller wavelength, lower wavelength, the light will not be jumping the particle, it will get scattered because the light will hit the particle surely. And that is why the light with low wavelength is having more tendency to get scattered, whereas the light has longer wavelength, they less scatter by a particle. I hope it is clear. Now, type of scattering. So there are two types. One is elastic or Rayleigh scattering. Another is inelastic scattering. Let us see one by one. The very first thing we'll study is elastic scattering. What is elastic scattering? So when the size of the scattering particles, dust particle, it could be molecule, it could be a very small solid body, very small. When we talk about light, and in this session we are talking about visible light, the visible light has the wavelength in order of 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer, then that very comparable to size the particle should be. So it could be a dust particle, it could be a molecule, molecules of gases which are present in the air. So when the size of the scattering particle is much smaller than the wavelength of the incident light, then what happens? There is no exchange of energy between incident light and the particle. Now in this, what happens if the incident light is having some energy and the scattered light is having same energy, then there is no change, there will be no change in the frequency, because we know one formula, that is E is equal to h nu. E is energy, h is Planck constant, nu is frequency. Although this formula belongs to particle nature of light, and somehow when we study the particle nature of light, then we'll explain scattering on the basis of particle nature also. So the energy of light depends upon frequency. If incident light is having incident and the scattered light is having same frequency, it simply means they belongs to elastic scattering. So there is no exchange of energy between the incident light and the particle, and therefore there is no change in frequency and wavelength of incident light. Such scattering of light is called Rayleigh scattering or elastic scattering. There is one law which is given by Rayleigh, and that law is the intensity of scattered light is inversely proportional to the fourth power of the wavelength, provided that size of a scattering particle are much small than the wavelength. If the particle size is much smaller than the wavelength of incident light, then what happens? Intensity of scattered light is inversely proportional to the fourth power of the wavelength of incident light. It simply means that if a light has a longer wavelength, then it will scatter the least, but if a light has low wavelength, a smaller wavelength, it will scatter more. Hence, light of shorter wavelength, that is a blue region. I hope you know Vibgyor. The violet, indigo and blue, these are called blue region. The light of shorter wavelength, that is a blue region wavelength, is scattered about 10 times more than the longer wavelength, means the red region. And when we look at the sky, the scattered light enters our eye, and light contains the light which contains blue color in a larger proportion, and this is why sky appears blue. There may be one question in a board examination on the basis of a scattering of light, why sky appears blue. So this is the answer. What happens when sunlight passes through the atmosphere? It strikes the molecules of the gases present in the atmosphere. Now what happens? Since blue region light, means violet, indigo and blue, they are having less wavelength, so they scatter the most. Now what happens? The scattered light is everywhere in the sky. Now that scattered light again strikes with some molecule and then reaches to our eye. Now to our eyes we have two wavelengths. We have so many wavelengths, but the scattered light which is reflecting from everywhere in the sky, that light comes in our eyes. So the light which come to our eyes, it has larger proportion of blue light, and that is why the sky appears blue. One more example of law of scattering is there, and that is when the sun appears reddish during the sunset and sunrise. Why is it so? Actually, in the morning or evening, when the sun is near the horizon during sunrise and sunset, the light has to travel longer distance. Let us understand by a diagram also. The light travels a longer distance to reach to our eyes. Now this longer distance through the atmosphere, what happens is scattering takes places. Now when scattering takes places, the blue light gets scattered only. Only the longer wavelength, that is a red light, reaches to our eye. So what happens? Sun appears red because the red region lights are approaching us. Blue light has been scattered. Same happens in the evening time during the sunset. Again, the sun is at horizon and it travels. Light has to travel a longer distance to reach our eyes. So most of the blue light is scattered in the sky and only red light reaches to us, and that's why sun appears almost reddish at sunrise and sunset. So this is another natural phenomena. So many other examples can also be given, like the danger signals are made by red light only. Why is it so? Because red light is scattered the least, and therefore it can travel a longer distance without getting faded up. That's why the danger signals are made by red light. Another example can be there, and that example of clouds appears white. Why is it so? Because clouds are comparatively at nearer distance to sun, and that's why it scatters all the light and all the lights come reach to our eyes, and that's why the cloud appears white. So many other examples are also there. So just go through the book. If you see any new, let me know. And in class 10th also this was there. So let us move ahead now. Next thing we have to study is inelastic scattering. Although it is not there in a syllabus, but we are doing, and I have told you there are two types, so we must know what is the second type. So in inelastic collision, what happens? The size of the scattering particle is greater than the wavelength of incident light. It is again comparable only. It is not like it is very much greater. It is greater than the incident wavelength of the incident light. And what happens now? There is an interchange of energy between the incident light and the particle. Now the energy of light changes, and therefore its frequency and wavelength also changes. So such scattering of light is called inelastic scattering. Two examples are there. One is Raman effect and another is Compton effect. What is Raman effect? Let me tell you in a line. This very thing, the definition, when the ray of light strikes a particle of greater size than its wavelength, then there is a change in frequency and wavelength of the light. This very effect is called Raman effect. And what is Compton effect? It is the change in the frequency and the wavelength of light when it strikes to a charged particle. So further that light splits into several wavelengths, and that is called Compton effect. These things, inelastic scattering is not there in a syllabus. It is only for your knowledge. Now let us move ahead. Some terms related to human eye. The very first thing we are going to define is near point. What is near point? The nearest point from the eye at which the object can be seen clearly by the eye is called its near point. According to science, the near point is at 25 centimeter from our eye. Okay? According to science, the near point is at 25 centimeter from a normal eye. Okay, if there is no defect in the vision, then from our eye, the nearest thing we can see it is at 25 centimeter. Now some of you might be thinking that we can see the object which are at the distances less than 25 centimeter. Actually what happens, we assume that till 25 centimeter there is no stress in our muscles. Okay, means muscles are made to do that. Till that point there is no that much stress, but the tolerance is there, so we can see the objects which are less than at 25 centimeter. But in that case there is a stress in our ciliary muscles. Ciliary muscles are the muscles which holds the eye lens. So there is much stress in the ciliary muscles, and due to this stress the muscles get weakened by the time passes. That's why it is advised, so whenever you are studying, you keep your books, copies at a distance of 25 centimeter. Okay, now let us move ahead. The next thing is least distance of distinct vision. So it is the same distance, 25 centimeter. The distance up to which a normal eye can see is called the least distance of distinct vision. It is represented by capital D. For normal eye, the distance is 25 centimeter, as I have told you. Let us move ahead. Next point is far point. What is far point? As we have defined for the near point, in the same manner far point, the farthest point from the eye at which the object can be seen clearly is called far point of the eye. For a normal eye, the point is at infinity. Actually, not any particular distance is being defined. The farthest point which can be seen through our eyes, that farthest point is called our far point, and it is supposed to be at infinity. Next thing is range or normal vision. The distance between infinity and the 25 centimeter means the range through which we can see. That distance is called range or normal vision. Next thing is power of accommodation. What is power of accommodation? Power of accommodation of eyes is maximum variation in the power focusing on near and the far objects. For a human eye, the power of accommodation is 4 diopter. If an object is at 25 centimeter and eye lens has to focus on that object, then in that case the focal length of the eye lens is 25 centimeter. So when we calculate power for that, so P is equal to 1 upon F, so 1 upon 25 centimeter. Further it could be converted in meter, so it will be 1 upon 0.25. 1 upon 0.25 is equal to 4. The power of eye lens when it is looking at the nearest object which it can see is 4 diopter. But at infinity power will be 0, because at infinity focal length is infinite. So if you put P is equal to 1 upon infinite, P becomes 0. So what is the power, what is the range of power? 4 diopter minus 0, so it is equal to 4 diopter. That's why for power of accommodation is 4 diopter. Next thing going to be very important, and it is visual angle. What is visual angle? The angle subtended by an object at the eye is called visual angle of the object. Let me explain this particular definition with a diagram. Now just see the diagram. The red football-like structure is actually your eyes. So, and one person is there. So when you look at the person from bottom to his toe to his head, there is a angle between these two lines. So these two lines is called visual angle. Now what happens if that person comes nearby you? That visual angle increases. The visual angle depends upon the distance of the object from your eye also. Moreover, it is very difficult to analyze triangles like this. So what we do for our convenience, we make the triangle right angle triangle by putting our eyes to parallel with the toe of the or bottom of the object. So in that case, the visual angle, the triangle becomes right angle triangle, and for us visual angle is phi, and if phi is very small, then tan phi will be equal to height upon distance. So this is the formula for visual angle. This is all terms related to the human eye. Let us move ahead. Now we are going to study optical instrument, and the first optical instrument we are going to take is simple microscope. What is a simple microscope? The simple microscope is simply a convex lens of short focal length provided with a handle. You must have seen magnifying glasses at your home or in your physics lab or anywhere. So that magnifying glass is actually a simple microscope. Or you must have seen the person who is repairing wristwatches. He used to wear a structure to nearby his eyes, and then he repairs the wristwatches. So that is actually a simple microscope. It is a convex lens of short focal length, and it is provided with a handle, and it is held close to our eye and used to view magnified image of tiny objects. What is the working principle of simple microscope? When an object is kept between the optical center and focus of a convex lens, then a virtual magnified and erected image is formed behind the object. So this is the working principle of the simple microscope. We have two cases to study. So let us study the case 1. Case 1, when the final image is formed at the least distance of distinct vision. Let us see the ray diagram. So as you can see, an object is kept, the object is BA, or you can say AB. It is kept between focus and the optical center. One ray parallel to the principal axis passes through the focus, another ray through the optical center. When we extend the rays behind, we get an image, and that image is A dash, B dash. Okay, so we get an virtual erected image, and in this case, the image is supposed to be at the least distance of distinct vision, means the distance between O and B dash must be equal to capital D. In such cases, we define magnifying power of simple microscope, and the magnifying power is defined as let us understand the diagram. We put our eyes nearby the convex lens. We define one angle, and that angle is A dash B dash. One define V angle, and that angle is beta. Let me repeat again. Now, first of all, we put our eyes nearby the convex lens. Then after, one angle we define, and that angle is visual angle of the image, and that angle is between the optical center ray and the principal axis, and it is given by beta. The distance, as I was telling, the distance between O and B dash must be equal to D. This is all for the ray diagram. Now we define magnifying power. The magnifying power of a simple microscope is defined as actually the ratio of visual angle subtended by the image to the visual angle subtended by the object when both are at the least distance of distinct vision. As you can see in the ray diagram, the image is at the least distance of distinct vision, and it is making a visual angle, and that angle is beta. But what about the object? Object is not at the least distance of distinct vision. So we draw another diagram for the object. We keep the object at capital D. Now it is making an angle to our eyes, and that angle is our visual angle subtended by the object. It is denoted by alpha. So by the definition, if we go, then magnifying power is defined as visual angle subtended by the image at D, that is the least distance of distinct vision, to the visual angle subtended by the object at D. Both are at D. So one angle is beta, another is alpha. So we can write M is equal to beta upon alpha, and that is approximately equal to tan beta upon tan alpha because the angles are very small. Now just see in the ray diagram, beta is there in the two triangles. Just look at the ray diagram. One triangle is ABO, this triangle. Another triangle is B dash A dash O, B dash A dash O. Okay, so which triangle we are going to consider? The answer is anyone you can take. Anyone you can take. Answer will be calculated by analyzing any of these two triangles. Okay, so right now I'm going to take the smaller triangle ABO. In ABO, tan beta is equal to perpendicular upon base. Perpendicular is BA, base is OB. For tan alpha, look at the bottom triangle, this one. For tan alpha, we have ABA upon EB, perpendicular upon base. Now what happens? BN and BA will be, let us put the values first of all. In place of BA, we are going to write H, height of the object, upon minus U because it is the object distance, and it is minus because we are moving left to the origin, left to the optical axis, left to the optical center. For BA we have put H, for EB we have put minus D, again we are moving left. Now what happens? H and H will be cancelled out. We are going to have M is equal to D upon U, and let this be your equation number 1. Okay, now let us move ahead. From thin lens formula, what we are going to have? From lens formula, 1 upon f is equal to 1 upon v minus 1 upon u. Let us put the value. 1 upon f is equal to 1 upon minus d, because the image is at minus d only, minus 1 upon minus u. Now we are going to multiply the whole equation by capital D only. So we are going to have d upon f is equal to d upon minus d plus d upon u. Now d upon minus d will become minus 1. So d upon f is equal to minus 1 plus d by u, or d by u is equal to d by f plus 1. Let this be equation number 2. Now what happens? In 1, d by u was equal to capital M, and the equation number 2, d by u is equal to d upon f plus 1. Then from 1 and 2 we are going to have m is equal to d upon f plus 1. This is the formula for magnifying power when the image is at the least distance of distinct vision. Let us move to the case 2. The second case is case 2, it should be 2, when the final image is at infinity. When the final image is formed at infinity. So let us see the ray diagram first of all. Now this time what happens, the object is kept at focus. So obviously its final image will be at infinity. We keep our eyes nearby the lens. The visual angle of the image is beta, and it is shown in the ray diagram. For the object we have to define the visual angle, so we make another diagram to keep the object at capital D, and here the alpha is made as in the previous case. Now we have to define magnifying power in this case. The magnifying power will be given as the ratio of the visual angle subtended by the image formed at infinity, it is beta as shown in the diagram, to the visual angle subtended by the object placed at the least distance of distinct vision as shown in the diagram. Means the object should be at 25 cm from our eye. So mathematically we can write m is equal to visual angle subtended by the image formed at infinity to the visual angle subtended by the object placed at capital D. So m is equal to beta upon alpha. So beta upon alpha can be replaced by tan beta upon tan alpha. Now tan beta, as you can see in the ray diagram, tan beta is equal to BA upon CB, whereas tan alpha in the ray diagram of second, means where the object is being defined, is given by BA upon EB. Now BA is replaced by H, CB is replaced by minus F because this time the object is at focus. Minus sign is there because we are moving leftward. BA, that is your H, upon EB, it is a minus D at the least distance of distinct vision. H and H will be cancelled out, minus and minus sign will be cancelled out. We are going to have m upon D, m is equal to D upon F, and there this is our formula for when the object is at infinity. So this is all for today. The simple microscope, as I have told you, it is used to view tiny objects, magnified image of tiny objects. Some more uses you can see around you. You have to write those uses in a home assignment. So what is your home assignment for the day? Home assignment. The first question is, why sky appears blue? As I have told you, it is due to scattering of light, but write the answers in your words. Don't copy the answer from any book. Right? You have understood the reason, write the answer in your words. Second one is, why danger signals are made red? As I have told you, due to scattering only, but write in your own words. Third question is, what is the difference between elastic and inelastic scattering? Fourth question is, write at least 4 uses of simple microscope. Fifth question is a numerical, and the question is, an object is to be seen through a simple microscope of power 10 diopter. Where should the object be placed to produce maximum angular magnification? In this question you have to make the ray diagram also. This is all for the day. I hope you are doing good. I hope you are safe. Thank you.